Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, for holding this hearing today. I appreciate it. Thank you to our witnesses for being here today. People with disabilities are living longer due to the advancements in medical technology and public health. And in order for people living with disabilities to achieve financial security, which is what we all want, they want to have it during their working years and they want to have it in retirement, they need employment opportunities and supportive services to help them secure and maintain good paying jobs. And it's just absolutely vital. Studies show that employing individuals with disabilities is good business. Individuals with disabilities offer many advantages, including a highly motivated workforce, lower rates of absenteeism and employee turnover, greater loyalty, and higher rates of satisfaction and productivity among the entire workforce. And as Governor of the state of Nebraska, when I would talk to employers, one of the things they always said is, we cannot find enough people to hire. Maybe they just weren't looking in the right place. Nebraska has talented people who want to work regardless of disability. Back home in my state, we are working to make sure that we are affording opportunities to be able to hire people with disabilities and pay competitively for those talents. Individuals with intellectual or developmental disabilities in the workforce in Nebraska receive coordinated employment services through vocational rehabilitation, through a partnership with the Nebraska Department of Education, Nebraska Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and Department of Health and Human Services. The partnership works toward competitive integrative employment that includes pay at or above minimum wage that is not less than what others without a disability are receiving for the same type of job at a location where the employee interacts with other employees without disabilities in comparable positions and has opportunities for advancement. The partnership also provides career counseling, employment information, and referrals to individuals with disabilities who want to work. So it is absolutely critical that we leverage all the talent in our country with this workforce shortage and make sure that people with disabilities have those opportunities. So actually, I'll start with Mr. Mittman. And again, thank you very much, Mr. Mittman, for your service. You have extensive experience managing and working with disabled employees. Can you speak to some of the most common misconceptions about employing a disabled worker?
Thank you, Senator. I believe some of the biggest misconceptions about employing people with disabilities is just the misconception that they don't have the same skills as everybody else, because they do. I believe also that when it comes to accommodations on the site, in the workplace, I think a lot of employers believe that there's a significant expense to those accommodations, which is just not true. I've seen a recent study recently where I think the average accommodation was $300 or something like that. So it's not, it's a miseducation of employers that they believe that employing somebody with disability could bring additional liabilities and additional expenses. And I think those are the greatest common misperceptions out there.
So, Mr. Mittman, you're running your own business. You know that hiring and training a worker is expensive, right?
Yes, sir.
Just a time. How would you compare the cost of attracting somebody to work for you and training them versus the cost of the accommodation?
Well, people with disabilities have a very low turnover rate. They have a very low turnover rate, and when you bring somebody in and who's struggled to find employment, they're very loyal to the organization. They have a lower absentee rate. They stay for a long time. So the investment in an employee is much cheaper and costs a lot less than it does if you're having to turn over your employees all the time. So it's absorbed into the loyalty and the effectiveness and the abilities of the individual.
So would you say the benefit of the accommodation, which you said one study showed that was like $300,
approximately.
The cost of the approximately $300 is far outweighed by the benefit of having somebody who you retain longer because it costs so much to attract and retain people. Is that a fair statement, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So actually the cost-benefit trade-off here for employers is when you hire people with disabilities who are going to, you're going to be able to keep longer, you're going to have less turnover, that benefit's going to far outweigh the extra cost of the accommodation. Mr. Chairman, I'm just about out of time. I just got one more question I'd like to ask Mr. Mittman if I could.
Sure.
Just, Mr. Mittman, could you talk a little bit, so given that we believe here that, you know, the cost accommodation is going to be far outweighed by the benefit of the lower turnover rate, just one example, what's the best way to educate employers about these misconceptions and overcoming some of these misconceptions?
Well, I know at Bosman Enterprises, as I mentioned, I had a dedicated team of individuals who assist people who are blind and visually impaired finding employment. And one of the things they do, one of their biggest tasks is, as they're out assisting individuals find those employments, they're actually educating the employers prior to the employees showing up, and sharing the experience and sharing what we're talking about, the long-term benefits of hiring somebody with a disability. But being in there and working directly with the employers is the best way. An active engagement of the employers is the best way to educate them on the benefits of hiring somebody who's disabled.
Great. Well, hey, thank you, Mr. Mittman. Again, thank you for being here, and thanks to all the witnesses for being here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Ricketts.